The invitation that changed everything. Have you ever witnessed the wealthy extend a hand? Not to uplift, but to demolish. Marcus Tan did just that. Yet, when Lee Mei Lim stepped through that imposing doorway, it was his carefully constructed world that began to tremble. The corporate headquarters of Tan Holdings, a gleaming skyscraper piercing Singapore's skyline, reeked of expensive perfume and the sharp, sterile tang of newly polished marble. It wasn't a welcoming scent. It was the chilling aroma of absolute power, a silent, potent reminder of one's immutable place in the unforgiving food chain. Grace Lim, 50, pushed her cleaning trolley along the corridor, as she did every afternoon. She moved silently, her gaze carefully averted. She had long learned that in places like this, the humble stayed invisible until someone needed to make an example of them. The elevator doors slid open, and a ripple of thin laughter spilled into the quiet hall. Dark suits, discreetly expensive watches, shoes that never touched puddles. Among them, striding with the casual authority of someone who owned the building before its first foundation stone was laid, came Marcus Tan, 30, with a perfect smile and the eyes of a man who had never once needed to apologize. Grace instinctively lowered her gaze, not from fear, but from habit. Marcus passed without seeing her, or expertly feigning not to. A few meters away, Events Director Margaret checked a list on her tablet, her face taut with the perpetual tension of someone orchestrating the brilliance of others. She heard the men's laughter and looked up just in time to see Mark Teo, an older partner, lean towards Marcus with the air of a challenge. "I bet you don't have the guts," Mark drawled playfully. "Not in front of everyone." Marcus smiled, as if life were merely a game. "Guts for what?" Mark nodded with his chin towards the corridor, towards Grace and her trolley. "The usual," he said. "Make it elegant, make it clean. Invite the cleaning lady's daughter and let the ballroom do the rest." Margaret tensed, not purely out of moral indignation, but because she knew the kind of fire such games ignited. Marcus, however, wasn't scandalized. He was intrigued. "The daughter?" he repeated. "She has a daughter?" Mark shrugged. "Everyone has something to hide or something to protect." He paused, then added with that soft cruelty disguised as a joke, "Even those who clean." Grace froze, the mop suddenly weighing double in her hands. She felt a flush climb her neck, not from shame of who she was, but from the searing anger of being treated as an object. She tried to move, to continue on, as always, but fate tripped her. A wheel of her trolley snagged on a doorframe, the clatter echoing louder than usual. All heads turned. Marcus looked at her for the first time, as if she had suddenly materialized. His perfect smile remained intact. "Grace, isn't it?" he said, polite in form, cold at its core. "Is everything all right?" Grace swallowed hard. "Yes, sir," she replied, lowering her head slightly. Not in submission, but to offer no further ammunition. Marcus glanced at the trolley, then back at her. "Tell me something," he said, feigning mild curiosity. "Does your daughter work?" Grace felt a sharp pang in her stomach. "My daughter," she murmured. "Yes, she works." Margaret looked up from her tablet, knowing exactly what was coming. Marcus's smile widened. "Perfect," he said, "because this Friday we have a gala, a very important event, and I would like your daughter to attend." The corridor fell silent, not out of respect, but sheer surprise. Grace felt a cold dread. "My daughter?" Marcus nodded, as if bestowing an honor. "Yes, I want her to see how the real world works," he said. "Besides, it's always good to inspire." Mark let out a disguised chuckle. Margaret gripped her tablet, uncomfortable. Grace felt the air leave her lungs. It wasn't an invitation. It was a snare carefully laid. "I don't think Grace began, but Marcus cut her off with a sweetness that cut deeper. "Just tell her to come," he said. "It would be my pleasure to give you the address." He moved close enough for Grace to catch the scent of his expensive cologne and placed a black card on the edge of her trolley, like leaving a coin on a table. "What's her name?" he asked. Grace didn't want to speak, but knew refusal would only worsen things. In this building, people like her didn't win by denying. "Lee Mei," she replied, her throat tight. "Lee Mei Lim." Marcus repeated the name with a slow smile. "Lee Mei," he said. "Very good. Tell her to come. I want to meet her." And then he left, leaving the corridor smelling of perfume and humiliation. Grace stood there, the black card hot in her hand. Margaret approached, hesitant, unsure if she should speak, but fear also existed on the higher floors. "Grace," Margaret murmured softly. "Be careful." Grace looked at her, not with hatred, but with weariness. I always am careful, she said. That night, in their small HDB flat, Grace laid the black card on the table as if it burned her. It wasn't an invitation, it was a warning. When 25-year-old Lee Mei Lim arrived home from work, she saw it immediately. She didn't ask, "What is this?" She asked something far deeper. "What did they do to you, Mum?" she asked calmly. Grace tried to smile but couldn't. "They invited me to invite you," she whispered. "To laugh at you." Lee Mei picked up the black card unhurriedly, read it. She looked up. She wasn't scared. She was serene, as if this humiliation was something she had long anticipated. "Do you want me not to go?" Grace asked, almost pleading. Lee Mei moved closer, gently tucked a strand of her mother's graying hair behind her ear, and spoke with soft firmness. "They want to see me small," she said, "but I won't hide." Grace swallowed. "They'll hurt you with words." Lee Mei met her mother's gaze. "Let them try," she said. "Words only hurt when we believe what they say." Grace felt her chest tighten. Lee Mei looked at the card once more. "I'm going, Mum," she said. "And I'll go as I should," Grace whispered, trembling. "How?" Lee Mei replied without raising her voice. "As someone who doesn't ask permission to exist. As myself." And that was the first blow Marcus never saw coming. The black card lay on the table like a sleeping animal, silent, but with teeth. Grace Lim couldn't eat properly that night. She stirred her spoon in her bowl, as if the sound might help her not to think. She was 50 and knew the world's tricks. When the wealthy extended invitations, it wasn't always to share. Sometimes, it was to display. Lee Mei, conversely, moved through their home with a quiet resolve, not like someone oblivious to danger, but like someone who understood it so deeply she had already decided not to be dominated. "Mum," she said, sitting opposite her. "What frightens you most?" Grace tried to smile, but it came out a grimace. "That they'll humiliate you," she replied. "That they'll look at you as if you're less." Lee Mei lowered her gaze for a second, as if swallowing something bitter. "They've tried that our whole lives," she said. "A gala won't break me." Grace pressed her lips together. "But these people don't mock you in the street, child," she whispered. "They do it with beautiful words that cut." Lee Mei nodded. "That's why I'll be prepared," she said. Grace pointed at the card. "With what, Lee Mei?" she asked. "A dress like that costs what I earn in months." Lee Mei looked at the card, then at her mother. "I won't ask anything from that man," she said. "Not a single dollar, no favors, no apology. I'll go with what I have and with who I am." Grace felt a slight relief, and at the same time, a new fear. "And what do you have?" she asked. Lee Mei stood and went to her room. She returned with an old cloth bag. From it she took a small notebook, a pen, and a brooch, wrapped carefully in paper. Simple metal, but meticulously cared for, with a discreet, almost elegant shape. Grace stared at the brooch as if it were a distant memory. "That was your grandmother's," she murmured. Lee Mei nodded. "And yours," she said. "You kept it when we had nothing. I'll wear it when they try to make me feel like nothing." Grace swallowed hard. "You think a brooch?" Lee Mei interrupted her gently. "It's not the brooch, Mum," she said. "It's what it means, that they can't buy me." That same night, Lee Mei opened her phone and began making calls. Not to luxury boutiques, not to the rich, but to real people. First, she called an older woman in the neighborhood, Madame Siti, the tailor who had mended uniforms, sewn gowns for coming-of-age parties, and even funeral suits. A woman with quick hands and eyes that seemed to see the soul. "Madame Siti," Lee Mei said, "I need a dress, but I don't have money for a new one." On the other end, the voice responded without surprise. "What have they done to you now, child?" Lee Mei swallowed. "They've invited me to an event where they want to humiliate me." There was a brief pause. Then, a chair scraped, as if Madame Siti had straightened up. "When?" she asked. "Friday. Come tomorrow morning. Early," she said. "And bring whatever you have, even if it's a bedsheet. We'll see." Lee Mei hung up and looked at her mother. Grace shook her head, worried. "I don't want the neighborhood to see you, and then they'll talk." Lee Mei moved closer and took her hands. Grace's hands smelled of bleach and hard work. "Mum, the neighborhood talks anyway," she said. "The difference is whether I'll live hiding from what they say, or whether I'll face it head on." The next morning, very early, Lee Mei walked with Grace to Madame Siti's workshop. It was a small place, with threads hanging everywhere, an old sewing machine, large shears, and stained mirrors. It smelled of fabric and cheap coffee. Madame Siti opened the door and looked them up and down. "Grace," she said. I already know. Grace lowered her gaze. I don't want trouble, Siti. Madam Siti clicked her tongue. Trouble you already have. What's missing is dignity, she replied. Come in. Li Mei took an item from her bag, a simple, neutral-colored, used dress, bought from a thrift store. It wasn't ugly. It was just invisible. This is what I have, she said. Madam Siti took it, stretched it, held it against the light. The fabric is good, she murmured. The drape too. What it lacks is a touch. Grace looked amazed. Can you really? Madam Siti looked up. Of course, she said. Here, we don't create luxury. We create presence. Li Mei remained quiet, listening to that word as if it were a key. Madam Siti began to mark with chalk, measuring the waist, shoulders, length. Each snip of the scissors sounded like a decision. Li Mei looked at herself in the mirror, and for the first time, she didn't see herself as a cleaning lady's daughter. She saw herself as a woman who wouldn't bow her head. While Madam Siti was sewing, another woman entered the workshop, an elegant elderly lady from the neighborhood, one who had seen better days. She looked at Li Mei and frowned. And where are you going? All dressed up? Grace tensed. Li Mei replied calmly. To a place where they think I don't belong. The lady looked at her curiously, then lowered her voice. To the Tangala? Grace froze. Madam Siti stopped sewing for a second. Li Mei held her gaze. Yes. The lady sighed slowly, as if swallowing an old story. Then wear this, she said, and took off a fine, simple, understated necklace. It's not for you to look rich. It's for you to look untouchable. Grace opened her mouth. No, madam, we can't. The lady cut her off. Yes, you can, she said, because I too was humiliated in this world, and no one ever lent me anything. Li Mei took the necklace with respect. I'll return it, she said. Return it to me when he understands that not everything that shines belongs to him, the lady replied. Grace felt her chest tighten. It wasn't charity, it was an alliance. When Li Mei left the workshop, the dress wasn't finished, but its promise was already evident. A clean line, an elegant drape, a form that didn't scream poverty, but quiet confidence. Grace looked at her sideways, tears welling. Daughter, she whispered, I don't know if I'm proud or scared. Li Mei squeezed her hand. It can be both, Mum, she said. But we won't live solely in fear. And before they closed the door to their flat, Li Mei's phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Are they preparing your downfall? Don't go. Li Mei read it without changing expression. She put the phone away, looked at her mother. They already know, she said. Grace paled. How? Li Mei took a deep breath, serene. Because they don't want me to arrive, she whispered. And that means it will hurt them to see me walk in. The dress hung on the wall like a promise, not yet daring to breathe. Li Mei glanced at it while putting on a simple blouse for work, as if wanting to accustom her body to the idea of entering a place where people didn't look at eyes, but at labels. Grace couldn't bear the silence. She moved about the kitchen as if searching for something that wasn't there. A perfect argument to stop her daughter. Li Mei, she finally said softly. Don't go. Li Mei didn't answer immediately. She finished folding her blouse calmly. Calmness was her shield. Why? She asked, without raising her voice. Grace stood with her hands in the air, as if wanting to grasp her fear and tear it from her chest. Because these people don't invite out of kindness, she whispered. They invite to laugh, to film, for everyone to see, and then point. Li Mei looked at her with firm tenderness. And you think if I don't go they'll stop pointing? Grace swallowed. But not like this. Not with so many rich people. Not with cameras. Not with... Grace ran out of words, and the missing word was power. Li Mei approached and took her hands. Grace's hands were worn, cracked, smelling of bleach. Mum, look at me, she said. I won't fight them. I'll just be there and not break. Grace lowered her gaze, overcome by memories. I broke, she murmured. Many times. Li Mei squeezed her hands gently. I know, she whispered, and that's why I'm here. Grace took a deep breath, then exhaled, as if releasing an old secret. Your father used to say the same thing. They won't break me. And look how it ended. Li Mei grew quiet. That sentence changed the air. Why do you always talk about him as if? She asked. What really happened, Mum? Grace tensed, her lips trembling. Don't open that door, Li Mei, she said quickly. Not now. Li Mei held her gaze. It wasn't curiosity. It was intuition. Does it have to do with this place? She asked. With Tan Holdings? Grace took a long time to answer, and that silence was an answer. Li Mei stepped back and spoke calmly, firmly. Then that's why, she said, it's not just a humiliation, it's something you've carried. Grace put a hand to her chest. I swear I tried to bury it so you could live in peace, she whispered. That's why I work there, Li Mei. That's why I endure it. So you don't have to look at these people. Li Mei frowned. So I don't look, or so they don't look at me. Grace closed her eyes for a second, as if the question struck her. Both, she confessed. Li Mei took a deep breath, lowering her voice. Are they threatening you? Grace quickly denied it, but it was obvious she was lying. No, she said. It's just not convenient to draw attention. Li Mei approached again. Yesterday I got a message, she said, showing the screen. Don't go. Today another one came. Grace paled. What did it say? Li Mei read it aloud, slowly. If you go, they will destroy you. She looked up. Do you think they send that to a stranger? Grace trembled. Her voice almost broke. I don't want anything to happen to you, she whispered. Li Mei clenched her jaw. Nothing will happen, she said. But I'll tell you something. If they're already writing to me, it's because they're already watching me. And if they're watching me, hiding won't help. Grace sat down, exhausted. She covered her face for a second, as if her soul ached. I just wanted your life to be normal, she murmured. Li Mei knelt in front of her. My life is normal, Mum, she said. What's abnormal is that they made you feel like you had to bow your head your whole life. Grace looked at her with moist eyes. Li Mei, they have money, lawyers, people. And you have a dress Madame Siti is sewing. Li Mei almost smiled. I have one more thing, she said. Grace frowned. What? Li Mei spoke without great eloquence, but with firmness. I have control and I have dignity, and I have a mother who deserves to walk without fear. Grace swallowed hard. If you go, promise me one thing, she whispered. Tell me. Grace lowered her voice until it almost vanished. Don't say anything about your father. And don't say anything about certain surnames. Li Mei froze for a second. Surnames? She repeated. Grace realized what she had just let slip. She tried to correct herself. No, forget it. Just don't get involved. Li Mei didn't press with questions. She changed her strategy. She looked at her with tenderness, but with truth. Mum, if there's something you kept silent to protect me, I won't use it as a weapon, she said. But I also won't allow them to use it against you. Grace shed a silent tear. Li Mei hugged her tightly. I'm going, she whispered in her ear. But I'm not going alone. You're coming with me, even if it's on my back. Grace pulled away, startled. No, child, I can't. They'll fire me, kill my job. Li Mei shook her head slowly. I don't need you to go to the event, she said. I need you, no matter what happens, to have your phone ready and tell me the truth. Grace looked at the floor. The truth that's breaking you inside. That night, Li Mei received another message. This time, it wasn't a disguised threat. It was clear. Marcus wants you to arrive late and poorly dressed. Everything is arranged. Li Mei read it, turned off the screen, and stared at the hanging dress. Instead of fear, a harder calm appeared. I understand, she whispered. They don't just want to humiliate me, they want me to humiliate myself. She turned to Grace. Mum, she said, tomorrow we'll finish this dress, and on Friday, I'll walk through that door without lowering my gaze. Grace looked at her, trembling, as if she already saw the blow coming. And Li Mei, without raising her voice, uttered a phrase that was a promise. This time the shame won't be ours. Friday arrived with a clear sky, as if the world was oblivious to what was about to unfold in that grand ballroom. In the morning, at the corporate office, the atmosphere felt subtly off. Smiles lingered a fraction too long, glances held for an extra second. Grace Lim swept the lobby, feeling the weight of unseen eyes, like someone being watched before a cruel prank. Upstairs, in a glass-walled office, adorned with expensive plants, Margaret reviewed the event setup, her jaw clenched. Lists, guest names, access points, security details, press schedules flashed on her tablet. She understood protocols, and she also knew when an event was merely a stage to crush someone. Margaret, a voice purred with a smile. Mark Teo entered without knocking. Ready for the show? Margaret looked at him without emotion. I'm ready for there to be no scandal, she replied. Mark chuckled. Oh, please, scandal is if we die of boredom, he said. This is entertainment. Margaret lowered her voice. We're talking about a person, Mark. Mark approached the table and picked up an empty flute as if tasting it. And you're talking as if I don't pay half of this building's rent, he responded. Margaret swallowed. In that world, money always spoke louder than conscience. In another office, Marcus Tan leaned back in his chair, scrolling through his phone as if choosing party music. He didn't seem nervous. He seemed amused. Confirmed? Mark asked, entering without warning. Marcus looked up, smiling. Confirmed, he said. The girl is coming. Mark clicked his tongue, satisfied. Perfect. Then, activate the chat. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What chat? Mark smiled, like someone flashing an elegant knife. The usual one, among friends, he said. From the doorway, Margaret heard that phrase and felt her stomach churn. Mark opened a group on his phone. The chat's name was a subtle jab. The Gala, inner circle only. And then the messages began to pour in, emojis mixing with thinly veiled venom. The cleaning lady's daughter is actually coming? Someone find her a dishcloth to wear. Bet she shows up in sneakers. Marcus, make her use the service elevator. Put a microphone on her during the toast. Please. Have they prepped her spot? Marcus read, smiling, as if it were all perfectly normal. Mark typed one more message, the one that underscored their true intention. Rule. No one helps. No one saves. Tonight, she learns her place. Margaret felt a cold dread. This is cruel, she finally said, stepping in. Marcus didn't even flinch. It's social dynamics, he replied. Either she learns or she breaks. Margaret tightened her grip on the tablet. It's not a competition, Marcus. It's a person. Marcus stood, impeccable and young, with that arrogance that didn't need to raise its voice. Margaret, you sell image, he said. I buy truth. And the truth is, that world isn't for everyone. Mark approached Margaret with a shark smile. If it bothers you, don't look, he said, but don't interfere. Margaret remained silent, not out of cowardice, but calculation. She knew if she left, she'd see nothing, but if she stayed, perhaps she could prevent something worse. In the corridor, Grace continued working. She heard laughter drifting down from above and felt a sharp pang in her chest. She forced herself to breathe and not to cry. Suddenly, she heard her name. Grace. A security guard murmured softly, approaching. Listen, don't go near the ballroom today. Grace looked up. Why? The guard swallowed. Uncomfortable. Because they're saying things, he whispered. Things about your daughter? Grace felt the world shrink around her. What things? The guard glanced around. That they're going to embarrass her, he whispered. That it's part of the show. Grace gripped the mop fiercely, as if clinging to something to keep from falling. And you, why are you telling me? The guard lowered his head. Because I know your daughter from seeing her pass by, and she seems like a good person, he said. And this isn't right. Grace swallowed hard. Thank you, she murmured. When the guard left, Grace went into the restroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She saw herself tired, small, exactly as they wanted her to see herself. And, for the first time in many years, she felt a dangerous impulse to scream. She didn't. She washed her face, straightened herself, because if Li Mei was going to enter a world of crystal knives, Grace couldn't be trembling as if it were their fault. That same day, in Madame Siti's workshop, the tailor finished the dress with firm stitches. It wasn't an expensive dress. It was a dress that hung as if the fabric understood Li Mei's upright posture. Li Mei tried it on, looked at herself in the mirror. The presence didn't come from the fabric, it came from her gaze. Ready? Madame Siti asked. Li Mei nodded. More than ready, she said into her phone. The inner circle only chat continued to spew venom. Marcus typed the last message, the cruelest and most self-assured. Tonight, we watch her enter, and tonight, we watch her fall. Margaret read it from afar and felt her stomach churn. Because in her experience, when someone was so certain of humiliating another, it was because they couldn't imagine the blow turning against them. And that night, the elegant world was about to discover one thing. Not always does the one who makes the guest list decide who falls. Sometimes, they decide who awakens. The gala began even before it truly started. It began in the glances, the whispers, the phones casually lifted when someone important passed. It began in the soft music and the laughter that sounded just a little too loud, as if money itself had to announce its presence, even in the throat. Margaret walked among the tables, checking details. Glasses precisely aligned, cool lights, white flowers, a pristine stage for speeches. Everything perfect. Too perfect, as if perfection were a mask. In the center, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, with a discreet watch and the proprietary smile of an owner, stood Marcus Tan, 30 years old, the age when some barely learn and others believe they've already bought everything. Beside him, Mark Teo laughed with a half-smile, checking his watch every 2 minutes. "She's coming," Marcus murmured. He took a flute and took a minimal sip, like someone who didn't need alcohol to feel superior. "She's coming," he repeated. She confirmed. "And when she arrives, everyone will understand what happens when you mistake your place." Mark smiled. "Keep the camera ready," he whispered. Margaret heard that sentence and gritted her teeth. She saw a young waiter trembling with a tray. She saw a staff member nervously adjusting tablecloths and thought what she always thought. In this world, those below worked for those above to be entertained. The ballroom was filled with names: lawyers, entrepreneurs, suited influencers, perfumed wives, all with a cold glint in their eyes, the glint of those who sniff out a spectacle. And then the main doors opened, not with a sudden bang, but with a calm, assured swing. The music continued, but the air shifted. Li Mei appeared in the entrance. She didn't rush in. She didn't enter looking at the floor. She entered as if the doorway had always been hers. She wore a golden yellow gown, elegant, with a clean drape, the kind of fabric that seemed to glow without becoming scandalous. It wasn't vulgar, not exaggerated. It was perfect for saying without saying, "I didn't come to ask permission." Her hair was impeccably styled, her posture erect, a discreet brooch on her chest, a simple piece of jewelry, and a serene gaze that sought no approval. For a second, the entire ballroom stopped breathing. Laughter died in many throats. Phones were raised, but this time not in mockery, but in surprise. Margaret felt a shiver. She saw something that wasn't just beauty, it was control. A control that the rich couldn't deal with because they couldn't buy it. Marcus turned his head, and his owner's smile faltered mid-expression. His eyes widened slightly, as if his brain couldn't reconcile the image with the script he had written. Mark, beside him, blinked twice. "What the?" Marcus didn't reply. His hand unconsciously tightened around his flute. Li Mei walked further in. Each step was a soft sound on the gleaming floor. She was unhurried, untrembling. It seemed the golden yellow dress wasn't there to shine, but to mark a presence, to cut through the air like a clean blade. At a nearby table, a woman whispered, "Is that her?" "It can't be the cleaning lady's daughter." A man let out a nervous laugh. "They surely dressed her up for the joke," he said. But the laughter died when Li Mei passed by and looked at him for a second. Not with disdain, but with a calm that made him feel observed for the first time in his life. Margaret moved forward professionally, trying to prevent anything from going out of control. "Good evening," she said, approaching Li Mei. "I'm Margaret from events. Welcome." Li Mei looked at her with genuine, not feigned politeness. "Thank you," she replied. "It's very well organized." Margaret was silent for a moment. This way of speaking wasn't from someone who arrived lost. It was from someone who knew exactly where she was. "Do you need anything?" Margaret asked, lowering her voice. Li Mei almost smiled. "Just don't put me in a corner," she said. "I came to look you in the eye." Margaret felt the jab. She nodded. Understood. From afar, Marcus had already regained part of his smile, but it was a different smile now. It wasn't mockery. It was a desperate attempt to regain control. He walked towards Li Mei with a confident stride, surrounded by stares. "Li Mei Lim," he said, extending his hand, as if doing her a favor. "So glad you accepted." Li Mei looked at him and took a second to take his hand. That second was a humiliation for him, even if no one spoke. "Marcus Tan," she replied, as if reading a label. "Thank you for the invitation." Mark approached from behind with a fake smile. "We love it when people exceed expectations," he said. "It's inspiring." Li Mei looked at him with firm gentleness. "Yes," she said. "It's inspiring to see how hard people try to feel superior." Mark froze for an instant. Marcus let out a quick laugh to cover the blow. "I like your attitude," Marcus said, forcing charm. "Come, I'll introduce you to some friends." Li Mei nodded calmly. "Of course," she said. "That saves me the trouble of looking for them." Marcus blinked. He didn't understand the phrase, but it unsettled him. As they walked, the inner circle-only chat group exploded with messages. "Who dressed her?" "This wasn't the plan, Marcus. It turned against you. She looks too good." "Careful, this isn't funny anymore," Mark typed quickly, with disguised anger. "Calm down, everyone. We'll take her down during the toast." Margaret saw Marcus and Li Mei walk towards the center of the ballroom. She saw Li Mei surrounded by stares, but unbowed. And for the first time, she understood something clearly. Tonight, The spectacle wouldn't be the cleaning lady's daughter falling. The spectacle would be Marcus beginning to lose control to a woman who owed them nothing. Li Mei paused in front of a wall adorned with corporate photographs, founders, historical moments. The cool light illuminated her face, and in her eyes, something brief passed, a mere tremor, as if a particular photograph had stirred a memory. Marcus noticed, approaching curiously, already sensing a weakness. "Like history?" he asked with a smooth smile. Li Mei didn't take her eyes off the wall. "I like truth," she replied. And that phrase, spoken so softly, left Marcus with a new sensation, that of playing with someone who hadn't come to be a victim. Marcus walked beside her, his smile fixed, but inwardly, he was bristling. The plan no longer felt amusing, it felt unstable, and he disliked anything he couldn't control. In the ballroom, eyes remained glued to Li Mei, as if the golden yellow dress had triggered an alarm. Murmurs came in waves. One person chuckled, another fell silent, another recorded, but all watched. Margaret maintained a calculated distance, observing without intervening. One thing worried her. Li Mei's calm seemed too solid for this place, and when something solid enters a world of glass, either the glass shatters or it cuts. Mark Teo approached Marcus from behind, like someone whispering venom into an ear. "Don't stare at her as if she's bewitched you," he murmured. "Remember why you brought her here?" Marcus let out a light, forced laugh. "Relax," he said. "I'm just choosing my moment." They stopped near a central table where several important guests conversed, people with weighty surnames, their laughter sounding like sealed contracts. Marcus raised his voice just enough to be heard, not as a shout, but as a host. "Everyone, allow me to introduce Li Mei Lim," he said. "A special guest, here to experience the atmosphere." Li Mei smiled politely and nodded. "Good evening," she said serenely. An older man observed her from head to toe, with that look that believed it could measure someone by their hemline. "How elegant," he commented, with poorly disguised surprise. "Where is the dress from?" Marcus stepped forward, ready to plant the first thorn. "That's exactly what I wanted to ask," he said, smiling. "Li Mei, tell us, was it borrowed or rented?" Several thin giggles escaped, as if inevitable. The question was designed to make her shrink. Margaret gripped her tablet, bracing for the impact. Li Mei turned her head to Marcus, calm. She looked at him, as if listening patiently, like one listens to a child boasting. "Does the price concern you?" she asked softly. A laugh caught in the air. Marcus blinked. No, he said. "Just curiosity. We value transparency here." Li Mei held her smile. "Then let's be transparent," she replied. "My dress isn't here to impress anyone. It's here so you have no excuse to say you humiliated me out of pity." The ballroom fell silent for a second. Mark frowned. Marcus felt heat rise to his neck, but he covered it with a laugh. "My, what personality," he said. Li Mei tilted her head. "Personality is what you need when they invite you with venom," she said, without raising her voice. Someone let out a cough. Another guest lowered his glass. Margaret felt the floor tilt. Li Mei had just named their intention without shouting, and in a place of masks, that was a bomb. Marcus tried to regain ground with a more elegant jab. "Well," he said, raising his glass, "I like to support people who work hard. Grace is an example." He smiled, as if being generous. "Sometimes it's good to remember where you come from." Li Mei didn't move, but her eyes changed, not with anger, but with a firm boundary. "My mother doesn't come from nowhere," she said. "My mother sustains places like this without you even noticing." Marcus clenched his jaw. Mark let out a nervous chuckle, trying to land another stab. "It's honest work, of course, but some people get confused and think that just by dressing nicely they belong." Li Mei turned to Mark. Her smile didn't break, but her voice grew firmer. "And some people get confused and think that just by being born with money they are superior," she replied. "I imagine today we are all learning." Then, from a nearby table, a woman let out a small laugh, not of mockery but of admiration. Someone smiled involuntarily. Marcus noticed, and that was what stung most. The ballroom was starting to enjoy watching someone stand up to him. Marcus took a step and lowered his voice just for Li Mei. "Don't get carried away," he whispered. "This has barely begun." Li Mei looked directly at him. "I know," she replied, just as softly. "That's why I came." Marcus felt a pang of discomfort, turned to Margaret as if seeking support in protocol. "Is everything all right, Marcus?" Margaret asked professionally. Marcus smiled tensely. "Perfect," he said. "I just want Li Mei to be comfortable." Li Mei spoke first, calmly, elegantly. "I am comfortable," she said. Who I don't see comfortable is whoever organized my humiliation. Mark clenched his glass fiercely. Marcus swallowed hard. At that instant, the music changed to a slower theme, and a staff member approached Margaret. "In 10 minutes, the host's toast," he whispered. Margaret nodded, feeling her stomach tighten because she knew what Mark was planning. She knew the toast would be the live trap. And Marcus, his eyes fixed on Li Mei, as if he had finally found a worthy enemy, thought only one thing: if she won't fall with words, I'll bring her down with the microphone. Li Mei, conversely, looked at the stage at the back, the row of glasses, the large screen, and in her calm, a silent certainty emerged. Let them try. The ballroom continued to smile, but it was no longer a confident smile. It was a measuring smile. After the initial exchange, Li Mei stepped slightly away from Marcus and Mark's circle, not to flee, but to breathe. The air there smelled of expensive perfume and melting ice in glasses, beautiful on the outside, frigid within. She walked towards the wall of photographs, a neat gallery with black frames and white lights, the kind that flaunted history as if history were only success. Founded 2001, inauguration 2007, donations 2012. Li Mei's gaze swept over faces in suits, hands shaking, magazine cover smiles, and then she stopped. An older photograph, slightly more faded than the others. In the center, a young man in a light suit, a sober smile, serious eyes. Beside him, several employees lined up with badges. And in a corner, almost hidden behind another body, was a young woman, hair tied back, work apron, a tired but resolute gaze. She wasn't just any employee. It was Grace, younger, thinner, with the same look she had now, but without the wrinkles life had etched. Li Mei felt her chest tighten. She didn't cry, she just felt her throat close, as if someone had grasped her voice. Her fingers instinctively sought the discreet brooch she wore on her chest. She touched it, and in that gesture, a brief emotion escaped, like a jolt of memory. "Like it?" Marcus Tan's voice came from behind her, smooth, false, cautious. Li Mei didn't turn immediately. "It interests me," she replied. Marcus approached, looking at the photo as if it were a trophy. "That's the Tan family," he said. "The ones who built this, who made it exist." Li Mei finally turned her head, looking at him calmly, but her eyes held an old question. "Who is he?" she asked, pointing to the man in the light suit. Marcus smiled. "My father," he replied. "The true Tan, the one who didn't need to boast." Li Mei held his gaze a second longer than necessary. "He looks like you, but not in the eyes," she said. Marcus blinked. The phrase wasn't rude, but it had an edge. "Oh, really?" He let out a short laugh. "And you understand eyes?" Li Mei looked back at the photo and pointed without trembling to the woman in the apron. "And her?" she asked. "Who is she?" Marcus took half a second to respond. Not because he didn't see, but because he had always seen her as background. "An employee," he said. "There used to be many. People come and go." Li Mei clenched her jaw almost imperceptibly. "She didn't leave a photo like this by chance, did she?" she responded softly. Marcus tried to smile, but discomfort crept up his neck, because Li Mei was looking at what he didn't want to look at, the human side of the story. A few steps away, Margaret observed the scene. Something in Li Mei's posture caught her attention. The way she touched the brooch, the way the air grew thin, that microsecond where a strong woman breaks inside without letting it show. Margaret approached. "Everything all right?" she asked, addressing Li Mei, her voice professional, but her eyes alert. Li Mei nodded, without taking her eyes off the photo. "Yes," she said. "I just didn't expect to see her here." Margaret followed her gaze and fixed on the young Grace. She felt a shiver. Grace worked there now, but in that photo, she was too close to the founders to be just someone who cleaned. Marcus noticed Margaret's interest, and his smile hardened. "Margaret," he said, lowering his voice, "you can find out everything about her today." Margaret looked at him seriously. "Margaret," he repeated, without raising his voice but commanding. "Who is she? Where did she come from? Why does she speak like that? Everything." Margaret swallowed hard and nodded, not promising obedience, but unable to refuse. Li Mei heard the order. She didn't move. She just touched the brooch again, as if confirming something still remained intact. "Does it bother you that I ask?" Marcus said, trying to revert to mockery. "Because if history bothers you, perhaps this place really is too big for you." Li Mei looked at him with a calm that wasn't calm, but a boundary. "History doesn't bother me," she replied. "What bothers me are people who use it to step on others." Marcus gripped his glass. Mark, from afar, watched them with contained rage, and Margaret felt the show slipping from their control. Li Mei looked at the photo one last time and her lips moved almost as if she spoke a name without sound. Marcus noticed. "What did you say?" he asked quickly. Li Mei looked at him firmly. "Nothing you need to hear yet," she replied. Marcus froze for an instant, then feigned a laugh. He stepped back, pulled out his phone, and texted someone. "I want the report now. Grace Lim and her daughter, especially the daughter." At that very moment, Marcus's phone vibrated with an almost instant reply, as if someone had been waiting. He read it, and the color drained from his face. The message read, "Marcus, this woman is no joke. There's an old file with her mother, and her father's surname is linked to your family." Marcus looked up at Li Mei, who remained in front of the wall as if nothing had happened. But his eyes were no longer mocking, they were fearful. The message on Marcus's phone left a metallic taste in his mouth. It wasn't fear of what people would say. It was fear of something worse, that the game had crossed paths with an old file, with a past that, if exposed, could tarnish his family name far more than a bad joke. Marcus quickly put his phone away, feigning nonchalance, but his neck was tense, his smile tighter. Li Mei, conversely, remained in front of the wall of photos, as if the ballroom didn't exist. The white light outlined her profile. The golden-yellow dress seemed even cleaner under that cool illumination, and the brooch on her chest almost gleamed. "Li Mei," a voice said behind her. It wasn't Marcus's voice, nor Mark's. It was an older, male voice, with a natural respect rarely heard in that ballroom. Li Mei turned calmly. There stood a man in his late 60s. Dark, classic suit, well-combed gray hair, firm gaze. He didn't have the glint of the nouveau riche. He carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. Margaret recognized him from afar. Mr. Eugene Fernandez, an old investor, a guest of honor, one of those who didn't smile out of obligation. The man looked at Li Mei's brooch intently, not as one looks at an ornament, but as one recognizes a sign. "That brooch," he murmured. "Where did you get it?" Li Mei lowered her gaze to the brooch for a second. "It's from my family," she replied. "Mr." Fernandez swallowed hard. His eyes almost welled up, as if a memory had entered his pupil. "I've seen that brooch before," he said, softer. "Many years ago." Li Mei held his gaze. She didn't falter, but her breathing shifted. "Where, Mr. Fernandez?" He looked around, guarding his words. "On a woman who worked here, but not as they say now," he whispered. "And on a man who shouldn't have disappeared from the records." Marcus, who was a few steps away, froze upon hearing this, approaching quickly, smiling with false urgency. "Mr. Fernandez," he said, attempting to regain control. "So good to see you. Have you tried the wine?" Mr. Fernandez didn't even look at him at first. His eyes were on Li Mei. "What's your name?" the man asked. "Li Mei Lim," she replied. Mr. Fernandez frowned. "Lim," he repeated. "No, that wasn't the surname I heard." Grace, at that moment, seemed to enter the ballroom without being there. Li Mei felt her mother's warning in her chest. "Don't talk about surnames." Li Mei held the man's gaze, tense but serene. "What surname did you hear, sir?" Marcus quickly interjected, too fast. "Mr. Fernandez, this isn't the time for stories," he said, laughing forcedly. "We're at a gala, Mr." Fernandez finally looked at him, and in that gaze, there was no respect. "You keep quiet, Marcus," he said dryly, "because when it comes to history, you have no shame." The nearby area of the ballroom fell silent. Margaret felt the blow, as if a door had suddenly opened in an elegant room. Mark, from afar, fixed his gaze on Mr. Fernandez. He disliked it immensely when an elder took control of his stage. Li Mei lowered her voice slightly. "Sir, if you know something about my mother, tell me carefully," she said. "There are too many years here." Mr. Fernandez nodded. "You're right," he said, "and that's why I won't speak here." Li Mei almost breathed a sigh of relief. But Mr. Fernandez did something unexpected. He pulled out an old, somewhat worn card from his pocket, one of those no longer in common use, held it between two fingers, and showed it only to her. On the card, in sober lettering, was a name and surname. Li Mei read it, and the world stopped for half a second, because on that card was a surname she had heard only once in her life, in a whisper from Grace when she thought Li Mei was asleep. Mr. Fernandez looked at her gravely. "That surname isn't spoken at a gala," he whispered. "It's spoken in a courtroom, or at a funeral." Li Mei gripped the card tightly, maintaining her outward calm. Inside, something ignited. "You knew him?" Mr. Fernandez nodded slowly. "And I know who betrayed him." Marcus turned pale. "Mr. Fernandez," Marcus insisted, with a desperate smile. Don't do this here. Mr. Fernandez looked at him and pinned him with a phrase that cut like glass. You already did it first, when you invited her to humiliate. Mark took an irritated step. With all due respect, Mr. Fernandez, this is a private event, he said, trying to assert authority. We don't need drama. Mr. Fernandez looked at him, as one looks at an old threat. You create the drama when you think money erases what you've done, he replied. Margaret felt a shiver, and for the first time, the elegant ballroom seemed insecure, as if the marble floor had cracks. Li Mei returned the card to Mr. Fernandez, but her voice came out differently, firmer, more mature. Thank you, she said. Don't tell me more here. Mr. Fernandez nodded and lowered his voice. If you want the full truth, come with me when the toast is over and bring your mother. Don't leave her alone. Li Mei froze. My mother is in danger? Mr. Fernandez clenched his jaw. Since they put that invitation on your table. Yes. Li Mei felt like calling Grace immediately. But she remembered, in places like this, phones also listen. Marcus, conversely, could no longer maintain his smile. Rage, mingled with fear, was visible. Mark approached Marcus, spoke into his ear. Quick, cut this off now. Do the toast, put her on the microphone, and make her explode before this old man says anything more. Marcus swallowed hard, looked at Li Mei, and for the first time, didn't see her as a cleaning lady's daughter. He saw her as a mistake that could cost him his reputation, or worse. On the stage, a staff member announced, in 5 minutes, the host's toast. Margaret looked at Li Mei with genuine concern. Li Mei, with the card and the surname echoing within, looked up at the stage, and her calm turned into decision. If they wanted a microphone, they would get one. The stage was set like an open maw. Cool white lights, a large screen behind with the Tan Holdings logo, glasses lined up like an army, a microphone in the center, awaiting the voice of someone who believed the world belonged to him. Margaret Lim looked at her watch. Her stomach already knew what was coming. The toast wasn't a toast, it was a trap with applause. Beside her, Mark Teo spoke into Marcus Tan's ear, quickly, with elegant venom. Keep it simple. You go up, she offers a few words of thanks, and when she stumbles, the ballroom will laugh on its own, he murmured. That's where the princess story ends. Marcus swallowed hard, tried to regain his host's smile, but now a shadow was visible in his eyes. What his contact had said, and what Mr. Fernandez had insinuated, had unsettled his ground. Even so, pride pushed him forward. Go, Marcus said dryly. Go. Li Mei stood a few steps behind, her golden yellow dress shimmering like a challenge under the cool light. In her hand, the old card Mr. Fernandez had shown her was no longer there, but the surname still echoed inside like a drum. Something from your history is here, and it's no coincidence. Mr. Fernandez approached her again, without drawing attention. Don't let yourself be dragged into their game, he whispered. They put on a show so they don't have to talk about what truly matters. Li Mei looked at him with firm calm. I didn't come to play games, she whispered. I came to look them in the eye. Mr. Fernandez clenched his jaw. Then take care of your mother, he said. If anything breaks tonight, they'll try to break her. Li Mei felt her chest tighten, not from fear of Marcos, but from fear for Grace. At that moment, the staff member announced in a clear voice, Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, a few words from our esteemed host, Marcus Tan. Applause. Raised glasses. Ready smiles. Marcus ascended the stage with studied confidence, adjusted his jacket, took the microphone, and let his voice fall like expensive silk. Good evening, he said. The screen behind him displayed images of success and foundation. Thank you for being with us. The ballroom watched him with automatic admiration. Marcus was young and powerful. At this age, many confuse power with merit. Mark observed him from below, satisfied like a maestro. Margaret, conversely, didn't applaud. She looked at Li Mei. Marcus continued, speaking of social responsibility, of providing opportunities, of inspiring, beautiful, clean words, free of blood. And when the atmosphere warmed, he smiled. Tonight, in addition, we have a very special guest, he said. A woman who represents effort from the bottom up. I'd like to ask Li Mei Lim to join us here. A murmur rose like a wave. Phones lifted. Several smiles stretched, ready for the blow. Li Mei didn't hesitate. She walked to the stage with a firm step. Not too fast, not too slow. Precise. Each step seemed to say, You will not drag me. When she ascended, Marcus received her with an extended hand, and that smile that pretended to be kind. Thank you for coming, Li Mei. he said into the microphone. Tell us, what's it like to be here, in a place like this? The question was loaded, as if this place were a cathedral and she an inappropriate visitor. Li Mei took the microphone gently. Her voice came out clear, without trembling. Quite interesting, she said, because here, there's a lot of talk about opportunities. But today, I was invited for another reason. The ballroom tensed. Marcus smiled, feigning a laugh. Oh, really? He asked. Which one? Li Mei looked at him directly. I was invited to be watched fall, she said. To prove, in front of everyone, that a cleaning lady's daughter doesn't belong. There was silence. An uncomfortable silence. No one laughed as they expected, because she spoke without drama, like someone describing a fact. Margaret felt a shiver. Mark clenched his jaw. Marcus let out a quick laugh to regain control. Don't exaggerate, he said. Here, everyone belongs by merit. Li Mei maintained her calm. Then I'm glad you say it out loud, she replied. Because that way, when the truth comes out, no one can say they didn't know. Marcus blinked. The ballroom breathed strangely. Mark gestured from below. Urgent. Shut her down now. Marcus changed his tone. Tell us, Li Mei, he said, smiling. Is your mother proud of you being here? Or is she worried about what people might think? There was the stab, involving Grace, making her carry the shame. Li Mei gripped the microphone firmly. She didn't raise her voice. My mother is proud to still be standing after everything they did to her, she said. A murmur ran through the ballroom. Marcus almost frowned. What did they do to her? He asked, feigning curiosity. Li Mei looked at the photo wall from the stage. They used her, she said. They made her invisible. They made her silent. Marcus tried to cut her off. This isn't a courtroom. Li Mei interrupted him with a soft but dangerous phrase. No, Marcus, this is worse, because here, they judge without evidence, just with money. Mark took an irritated step and muttered to a security guard. Margaret saw it and felt the jolt of reality. They were going to try to silence her. Li Mei noticed it too. She lowered her gaze for a second, then raised the microphone again. Do you know what's most curious? She said, looking at the audience. When you laughed in the inner circle-only chat, you didn't realize one thing. The ballroom froze. Margaret became rigid. Mark tensed like a spring. Marcus lost some of his smile. What chat? He asked quickly. Li Mei looked at him. The chat where you wrote, no one helps, no one saves, she replied. Where you planned for me to arrive late, poorly dressed, confused, to humiliate me? A louder murmur erupted. Several heads turned to Mark. Others looked at Marcus with discomfort. Margaret felt blood rush to her ears. Someone leaked it, or Li Mei guessed. Either way, the ballroom smelled of scandal. Marcus took a step towards Li Mei, lowering his voice through the half-muted microphone. Who told you that? He whispered tensely. Li Mei didn't answer that question. She answered with another, looking at everyone. And do you know why they wanted me to arrive badly dressed? She said. Because if I arrived well, they would have to look me in the eye, and that's frightening when you're not clean. The word clean fell with special weight. Several shifted in their chairs. Mr. Fernandez, from below, clenched his fist. Margaret felt the air was no longer controllable. Marcus swallowed hard. Mark could no longer bear it and shouted from below, trying to sound funny. All right. This is a gala, not a drama series. Let her say something nice and we'll go down. Some nervous laughs, but they were no longer laughs of power. They were laughs of uncomfortable people. Li Mei looked at Mark with calm. How curious that the truth bothers you, she said. What bothers me are the lies, especially the ones that ruin lives. Marcus tried to regain control with a final blow. Li Mei, he said into the microphone, his smile forced. With all due respect, you know nothing of ruined lives. You are merely the daughter of an employee. Li Mei looked at him without blinking. And there on the stage, in front of everyone, she uttered the phrase that changed the color of Marcus's face. No, Marcus. I am the daughter of the woman who appears in your foundation photograph. And if my mother is there, it's because your history has a part you buried. The ballroom froze. Marcus turned pale. Mark stopped smiling. Margaret felt the world tilt. And then, from the back, a strong murmur was heard, and a woman's trembling voice. Grace is here. Li Mei turned instinctively, and at the entrance of the ballroom, in her work uniform and moist eyes, stood Grace. She had come not to ask permission, but because fear could no longer stop her daughter. The ballroom didn't know what to do with the image. Grace Lim, in her work uniform, hands trembling, standing at the entrance of a gala where everything was suits, sparkle, and expensive perfume. It wasn't a pretty scene. It was a real scene. And reality, when it enters a place of masks, doesn't ask permission. It disrupts. Li Mei saw her, and her heart tightened. Marcus also saw her, and for the first time, his body reacted before his pride. He tensed, as if Grace's presence were a key, opening a door he didn't want open. Mark, conversely, smiled with contained malice. "Look at that," he murmured to someone. "The protagonist has arrived." Margaret took a step towards Grace, trying to protect her with protocol. "Madam, are you all right? Do you need Grace?" Cut her off with a minimal gesture. "I don't need anything," she said softly. "I just don't want my daughter to be alone." Li Mei gripped the microphone for a second, then descended the stage with measured haste. Without running, she approached her mother as one would cover a wound. "Mum," she whispered, "I told you not to come." Grace swallowed hard, without taking her eyes off the ballroom. "And I told you to be careful," she replied. "But today I couldn't stay hidden." Marcus cleared his throat and regained his host's voice, trying to control the scene. "Grace," he said into the microphone, smiling. "What a surprise. You didn't need to come. This is a private event." Grace looked at him, and in her gaze was something Marcus didn't expect. Not subservience, not fear, but rather weariness. "Private?" Grace said, almost raising her voice. "How was it private when you made me sign papers without reading them?" A murmur ran through the ballroom. Marcus blinked rapidly. "What are you talking about?" Mark stepped forward with a false smile. "Grace, don't be dramatic," he said. "Everyone signs things here. It's normal." Grace turned to Mark. Her voice came out firm, even as her hands trembled. "Normal is working," she said. "It's not normal to have what's yours taken and then be expected to be grateful." Li Mei stood beside her mother like a wall. Margaret felt her stomach churn, and Mr. Fernandez slowly rose from the back. Marcus took a step towards Grace, lowering his voice as if offering advice. "Grace, remember your place," he whispered. "It's not convenient for you to speak here." Grace looked him in the eyes, and finally, after years, she didn't lower her head. "My place was what you used to hide behind," she said. "And I'm tired." Silence. The kind of silence that isn't filled with laughter. Grace took an old, folded, worn envelope from her uniform pocket. It wasn't elegant. It was real. She held it with her fingers, as if it weighed heavily. "This," she said, "is a copy I kept because a man told me, 'Keep it, Grace, because if one day they try to erase you, you'll need paper.'" Marcus swallowed hard. Mark frowned. "What is that?" Marcus asked, trying to sound calm. "Grace didn't give it to him. She gave it to Margaret." "You're the one who organizes," she said. "You know when something smells bad. Read it." Margaret hesitated but took it. She opened the envelope, read the first line, and her face changed. It didn't change with gossip. It changed with alarm. "This," Margaret murmured, "is a confidentiality and waiver agreement, but the date doesn't match." Grace nodded, pressing her lips together. "They made me sign that I was renouncing something they never gave me," she said, "and that I accepted to remain silent about an accident." Marcus stiffened. Mark let out a nervous laugh. "Oh, please, an accident. That was years ago, sir." "Mr. Fernandez spoke from the back, his voice firm. "It wasn't an accident, Mark." The ballroom froze. Marcus turned to Mr. Fernandez, pale. "You don't know Mr. Fernandez cut him off." "I do know," he said, "and I know your father ordered people silenced, and I know Grace was there, and I know the man who was going to report it disappeared from the records." Li Mei felt her chest tighten, but she remained firm. Grace looked at her daughter. Her eyes were full. "I kept silent out of fear, Li Mei," she whispered, "because they told me that if I spoke, you would be without a mother." Li Mei squeezed Grace's hand. "It's over," she said softly. Marcus tried to regain the microphone. Desperation for control was evident. "This is defamation," he said. "Security, please." Two security men took a step, but stopped when Mr. Fernandez raised his hand with silent authority. "No one touches this woman," Mr. Fernandez said. "And if they do, tomorrow, they'll be in the newspapers with names and with evidence." Margaret looked at Marcus, trembling. "Marcus, what is this?" she asked. "No longer as an employee, but as a witness." Marcus clenched his jaw. His smile died. "Margaret, give me that," he ordered. Margaret held the paper, uncertain. Li Mei stepped forward, looking at the audience. "My mother didn't come to beg forgiveness for cleaning," she said. "She came to say that you are not untouchable." Mark took an enraged step. "Enough," he said. This can be resolved as always. With money. Li Mei looked at him calmly. And there's your problem, she said. You think everything can be resolved with money? Because you've never paid with shame. The ballroom breathed strangely. Several guests were no longer recording out of morbid curiosity. They were recording out of fear of being on the wrong side. Grace, her body trembling, but her voice firm, delivered the final piece. That foundation photo, she said, pointing to the wall. It's not a memory. It's proof of who was there when everything happened. Marcus froze, and then a guest from the back, who had been silent, spoke for the first time. I also signed that agreement, he said with a trembling voice. And I regret it. Another murmur, another breaking step. Margaret gripped the paper and looked at Mr. Fernandez. What do we do? She asked. Mr. Fernandez didn't hesitate. Register it, he said. Now. Marcus swallowed hard, looked at Li Mei, looked at Grace, looked at the ballroom, and for the first time understood that he was no longer controlling the event. He was witnessing a collapse. But Mark, his eyes alight, approached Marcus and whispered a phrase that made Margaret freeze. If we don't put out this fire today, tomorrow they'll bury us. The ballroom ceased to be a gala and became a courtroom. Phones no longer pointed out of morbid curiosity. They pointed out of fear of being on the wrong side. Margaret Lim held the envelope with steady hands, and her gaze fixed on Marcus said what no one dared to say to a Tan. This cannot be resolved. This must be recorded. Marcus took a step, wanting to reclaim the paper. Give me that. Margaret didn't move. No. Mark Tio clenched his teeth and advanced with contained rage. But Mr. Eugene Fernandez planted himself in front of him with dangerous calm. Don't even think about it, Mr. Fernandez said. The game ends today. Grace Lim breathed, trembling, but remained standing. Li Mei didn't let go for a second, as if her hand were an anchor. I kept silent for years, Grace whispered, out of fear, and for my daughter. But it's over. A guest from the back raised his voice. I also signed that agreement, he confessed, and I have a copy. Another, with his glass in midair, murmured, I saw the accident and always knew they covered it up. Marcus turned pale. He was no longer the owner of the event, but an invisible accused. Mark tried his last gambit. Everyone, don't exaggerate. We can discuss this privately. Li Mei looked at him with serene coldness. Privacy was your weapon, she said. Public will be the consequence. Margaret dialed a number on her phone. She didn't speak loudly, she just said, I need a commissioner for oaths to come immediately and open a record now. Marcus clenched his jaw, looking at Grace, as if trying to break her with his eyes. Are you really going to do this? He whispered. Grace looked at him with firm weariness. You did it first, she replied, when you silenced me. Mr. Fernandez delivered the final blow without shouting. And tomorrow, Marcus, your foundation will be under audit. Your donations too, and your partner will stand alone. Mark blinked, frozen. What, sir? Mr. Fernandez looked at him, as one looks at someone who has already lost. There are names the city tolerates until they become a public record. Mark recoiled a step, understanding too late. Marcus swallowed hard, defeated. On the wall, the foundation photo remained there, quiet. It was no longer pride, it was evidence. Days later, the case was formally opened. Several testimonies emerged with copies. The agreement was annulled. Mark became the face of the cover-up, and public pressure sank him. Marcus lost control of his image and was scarred by the truth he thought he had buried. Grace resigned by her own decision, but she walked out with a straight back. No one called her Little Grace as a diminutive anymore. They called her Grace. Li Mei didn't celebrate with cruelty, only with peace. I didn't come to be a goddess because of a dress, she told her mother. I came to remind you who you are. And Grace finally breathed like someone leaving an airless room. Epilogue. 2 years later, the Saturday morning sun streamed through the kitchen window as Li Mei prepared coffee. Their small HDB flat in Angmo Kio wasn't luxurious, but it was theirs, bought with the money from the out-of-court settlement Marcus was forced to pay. Grace entered the kitchen, already dressed to go out. At 52, she looked 10 years younger. The weight on her shoulders was gone. Going to teach today? Li Mei asked. Grace smiled. She had returned to studying and now taught adult literacy in a city council project. Yes, Madame Chen is finally reading entire sentences. Li Mei smiled. And I'm going to the inauguration of the new headquarters. The Dignity Foundation, created by Li Mei with Mr. Fernandez's support, had already helped over 200 families report labor exploitation. What began as personal defense had become a life's mission. Grace took her coffee cup and looked at her daughter. "Do you regret anything?" Li Mei thought for a second. "Not having gone sooner," she said. "It took me too long to understand that dignity isn't asked for. It is inherent." Grace nodded. "Your father would be proud." It was the first time in years she had spoken of her husband without pain. As they left the flat, they passed the neighborhood newspaper stand. On the cover of a magazine was Marcus Tan leaving a police station. The headline read, "Ex-tycoon faces another labor lawsuit." Grace looked at him and felt no anger. She felt pity. "He could have chosen to be different," she said. Li Mei took her mother's hand. "We also could have chosen to stay quiet," she replied. "But we chose to be free." They walked down the street, hand in hand. Two women who had learned that shame only existed when one accepted to carry it. And that Saturday morning, Grace Lim walked without lowering her head for the first time in 20 years because she had discovered something no boss could take away. Dignity isn't a title, it's a choice.